Hello. Before the foundation of modern nations, there was the native foundation. Before that native foundation, there was the native foundation they were pushed out of. Before America was even, founders were even born already, entrenched in North and South, East and West, were effects from a breaching method that was designed to force everyone needs to react to it as fact human nature, and then to defend that, not realizing that would degrade the quality of human fact human nature, preservation of long words, short words, answers to questions, answers to obligation, things obligated by our identities of jobs, titles, individuals, identity, ground locations themselves, the identity of the ground itself, the identity of relationship between that. And this is where it is conceived as us as fact human nature, as conviction nature, where it is invisible but still discernible. It is written. See, but we have recorded criminally foreign influence readings of statutes, um, exploitations of criminally foreign influenced exploitations of exceptions and of exception nature that are inherent to the process of logic prevented free speech, because we have logic experts originally and still involved with organized crime that is fact human nature oriented, and with databases and with mail crime methods, wire crime methods. They just write fake transcripts. Now, see, then they hide that, and they need to simultaneously, constantly, increasingly pretend to be about integrity. Each modern nation at the same time, in a semi-ancient trap, needing to pretend their integrity, whereas in how the only counters to all that time, like wars, like people hurting and killing each other, involve in reaction counters to that, contained. Not even getting into the debatable parts of it. Both sides, as quality of fact human nature, are recorded self-value uses of criminally foreign influenced sciences and premises treatments and sequence treatments and identity treatments only having been allowed, heard by any body of any area, any location, area, and state of any modern nation, not by accident. We have all we need is honesty, actually true always, not denying exceptions, even and especially regarding the smallest finite exceptions, because this is how the finite, the order of the finite, the value of the order of the finite, it is simultaneously value with the order of sequence true before physics, the finite of physics. The order of physics is within the order of identity. And the order of metaphysics is between this, as the nature is value, value as nature at the same time, as the body of value, species, for example, simultaneously as humanity at the same time. That is, as ourselves, value is nature, nature is value, even though it is not a physical. See, this is where the physical is value as nature, and that is, it can't help but be value as its nature. The identity that causes evolution's fruits and gifts and means from nowhere, and inventions to work or not, and then to be further positive or negative in relation to itself or not. That's not debatable. That's an identity of value progression that sciences have obligations to answer. I mean, in relationship to questions, in relationship to theory itself. We have theories not by accident, offensively using words and phrases that the actual logic, no criminal foreign influences needs to use, but they're juxtaposing such in, not by accident. We have abridged sciences And that as an identity of the ground relationship to the Constitution recorded effectively breaching method employed self value, breaching screen roles, tools, weapons, worse, against the method that originally instilled. They have people pretending because their jobs are to do all these hundreds of nations. We just, this is our job, even if they're countering things, especially how the people countering each other as victims. But how as victim predators is see they where they know it, but they only know it through the filter of where everyone's a victim predator, what's fluent through our nations, what's peaceful in relationship to their peaceful agreements and their value systems, counter to sanctions and things like that. They're keeping contained the nature of business, where and how it's rolled still with since before cars, the pathology of homes, the better side of the worse than, where everyone's forsaken. Everyone's forced to value or to shut up about the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, standing values, the actual standing value progression system that fact human nature is tied to. It's just a phenomenon that and how we have value nature systems that aren't by this one, that are tactically not by this one, effectively to perpetually increasingly exploit that. And through the one method that built to perpetually keep effectively all styles of other methods of liars and of roles of using that the abridged constitution, of uses of the abridged value nature systems, markets positions, threats upon them too. But as you know, that's not only leaving that out. Businesses are victims too, but they're victim predators. Let alone our humanity, our nature of volume, our species nature of volume. Not rely on free speech, not by action, because all is the identity racketeering game. Worse than racketeering, simple organized crime method though. Worse than war crimes. Since before modern religions, thank God for them, but we can't do this because of the AB logic with theories, with scientific consensus and in other words, also identities of uses of culturals, because they have all the roads, locations, areas, shared policing of like malls where we shop. They have agreements with a bunch of countries, then they have to have investigations. They have to be able to have means to that so they can check each other on and off campuses. All words slash values, like said in communications. We have adults who are very experienced uses of their knowledge as lipogression cover up nature. Standing lipogressions already invested self-valued roles with such from their positions. Standing lipogression cover up natures as as nervous systems that cannot stand logic. Logic's uses of its actually inherent active and progressive means would sequence true. Two identities with the value and with the order of value of two sequence values true, because that's for the order of one identity is the order of it as itself. As its identity of relationship to itself and the value of that, which is what Genesis. What is Genesis about? Science. When it's not about that, it's because you haven't listened to the part that says all you have to understand is up to this part in the beginning of the Old Testament. It's also because everyone, what every job, title, identity, the ground, location, every identity, every identity of science further is taken and kept further and further victims of this logic racketeering collusion, pseudo positive. And where it's subtle because these are people just with uses of the identity grounds of the branches of government, and of the identity of the ground where there are database relationships, and of the identity of the ground where are campus of each age and nature, and further where there are intersciences. This is engineered to keep only roles with jobs and titles that are abridged sciences, and the perfect world forsaken. In conjunction with the conversation about how branches originally instilled took collusion with narratives like Jim Crow laws and like, oh, who's a good person, who's not a good person, how they unfold with things without addressing how they've been unfolding in collusion with everything that goes wrong originally. Still, they were used remotely. Now, so it was recorded how they're using the sense and sensibilities, and you guys can see discern this with me because co-defendants of former director of the FBI have roles with houses on my house that can, two houses. I'll put people on the sex offender registry are involved with people that came into my grade when I was in fourth grade. That are, so I have to tell my whole life story though. So this is not, I wasn't sexually abused or anything like that. But there are people abusing the girls and the boys, and they're involved with human trafficking. They're involved with other natures of predicate acts, falsified police reports, sequence shifts, with overt criminal enterprises, and with the branches of government. And so they have also, they've been lying about that by putting fake transcripts, lying about what is actually recorded on and off Weathersfield Police Department, lying about what is actually recorded on and off campuses, on and off campuses, police departments, on and off libraries. So Weathersfield Police Department have roles with a whole bunch of other nations, like Muslim nations, and they have roles with the World Trade Center attack, before the World Trade Center attack, and since, with further predicate acts with that, and with like a Leahy family. All these nations and cultures and people who are just long-time interbranch cliques. A whole bunch of people tied to a Leahy family with New Britain Superior Court. Dozens of people I don't know the names of and do are recorded involved with on and off the New Britain Superior Court predicate acts roles, wrongdoing roles, sequence shift roles, identity theft roles, frauds, child abuses, elderly abuses. Now, these are other courts and their family members also involved. And so I say this calmly, and what they've been doing too, they have crime whole methods of it, predicate act methods. Weathersfield police use methods, forging names, switching names. They have interstates, worst intercities and worse interstates recorded, roll with crime methods worse than indifference to it. Where they use crime methods pretending they're doing a wellness check, but they do that to forge names, switch names, make threats, for stack more and more predicate acts while they are preventing mandated law, pretend they don't realize they're in collusion with a whole bunch of bonded natures of organized crime by one. And it's not just because they all have undercover people associated with that, because they have laws where they can they're trying to, all positions of them gathering information is used for them to fake information into databases since before computers. This is what our founders left us to demonstrate. This is what is actually recorded. This is what is involved with nations firing weapons and killing each other, poisoning each other, burning each other, degrading each other, simultaneously pretending to be about evolution. We have recorded. I don't even know all the names of the families, but they're recorded. Like a kid who sued me, my family over when he tried wanted to buy a three wheeler, and with Dean LaPointe and a John LaPointe. Like I had nothing. I never had a class with them. Now these are people involved with a Dillon family and with a Kerr family. With a Jerry Kerr, there's a Jerry Officer Jerry Miller also further recorded confessed, also with a involved with them with two Mendes police also. But he only confessed roles with the Kerr family. Also recorded confessed and demonstrated involved with Weathersfield town offices and their roles with Russians with election crime spots on off church locations with child offenders, people involved with sequence shifts, forging names, switching names, roles with them, identity thefts, frauds, racketeering, liars who are involved with attaching people to fake locations, sequence shifts, falsified police reports, wire crime roles, criminal uses on and off Weathersfield Police Department, criminal uses of on and off New Britain Superior Court, and with a whole bunch of people involved with the FBI and with CIA and with overt criminal enterprises and with the Witness Protection Program further involved with uses of people on my street, with them with interbranch and uses of interbranch Facebook pages, involved with intercampuses Facebook pages, involved with on and off campuses, foreign and domestic uses in collusion with the lie progressions from the breaching method originally and still self-valued by all victim predators through all bonded engineering by and as this missed, whereas how that counts, where we are engineering as invisible but still discernible. Recorded self-valued, abridged constitution self-valued. With the discernible, invisible but discernible is complete, perfect world, offensively, a phrase involved, a word and a phrase involved with interbranch that are roles with overt criminal enterprises, private, and the stewards of them in investigations of everything at the same time. All the natures of courts, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously, and their police forms, and their family members. All the natures. This is every identity of citizens. Everyone's opinion. They're sick. You don't follow mandated law. That's evidence. You make opinions about what's actually recorded when they're putting fake transcripts to pretend other from the background, forging names and switching names. They have women interbranch. How many women they stacked? Dozens of women just interbranch, just from the Britain Superior Court alone, let alone the sick men there. Involve further child abuse, a whole bunch of natures of roles with falsified police reports, a whole bunch of natures of organized crime roles with that. As the people, as their crime acts roles with the same house/s involved with other natures of predicate acts with proven child sex offenders, as the same ones recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with judges' family members and with their extended family members, with predicate acts, with wrongdoing sequence shift roles, known by them or not. They prevented writing criminally since I was a kid. Fox News, please respond for Fox Connecticut News, because two Mendez police, the main family, former director of the FBI, one of his co-defendants, Thaddeus Grabowski, and other people are associated on off Fox Connecticut News. They're building in downtown Hartford, and like there are two Carone brothers, and I don't know the names of the kid with the who attached to Dean LaPointe, John LaPointe, with the police forms involved, with insurance companies and judges. And these are people involved with like Washington D.C., involved with the brothers of and the sister of and the mother of a mother of Chris Walters. That people from Old Town Cafe and Old Weathersfield. I wasn't there before. They always pretend me I was places I before I was. When I was in the whole life, when I was a young kid, when I would never hung out at Old Town Cafe. Chris Walters is one of the private school kids who recorded, confessed, gave the affidavit to as a kid. He rolls with others also with Weathersfield town offices and with an Inspector Mike with fire departments. And there's a Mike Kerr, Mike Delafaro. The Mike Domain is one of the ones with Mendez, Eric Mendez. I don't know his brother's name. On off Fox Connecticut News, right, with that location, the garage next to it, and with Allison Mulcahy. I never had a conversation with her. I never had a class with her. Never hung around with her. Never was around her. So we need a place to be able to counter interbranch uses of their Facebook pages to block people. The blocking feature on Facebook is recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with child abuses as the same people involved with elderly homes. Because they're making sense, they're making the also involved with sequence shifts, behavior crimes. These are with the courts and their family members are needed to hide live progressions because they were used remotely since they were kids. All positions with the courts, prosecutors. Now these are people also the courts, the prison stewards with them and their family members are also kept needed to hide with the overt criminal enterprises the same lies with them. That's what's actually recorded. See, they keep everyone not understanding such because and the evidence is they're lying about they've been showing fake transcripts lying about what is actually recorded over wires and over the internet to Weathersfield parents. Per women judges and prosecutors and states attorneys' roles, through their roles also having the roles also of private programs, trade agreements that never had integrity, like DACA, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with the predicate acts at Central Connecticut State University. People involved with remote uses of the Obama administration, remote uses of what they pretend is value as diplomat, etc. They're keeping the nature of volume a sick beast here and there. They have no integrity. That's why there are shootings on areas for worse than Forsaken. Same. That's why they have the same people roles with that actually recorded are the ones tied with ties between the sickest things that happen less often, but they happen in this town too, and they're connected to where it happens intercities and interstates, and worse than that, connected. And that always has been. This is keeping worse than just her out. Anyone who's not criminally foreign influenced, premises treatments, sequence treatments, identity treatments, finite treatments. So what we need to do is have mandated law followed. So there's a Russian woman. They also, they make people. They have a method where they have people make confessions to strangers. Then you remember who they are, even if you don't know their name. Half the people saying crazy things in life are the people pretending to be against that because they're keeping, like, for example, then they do litigation and they have all different fake sides of correlation nature in relationship to how they're going to respond when people complain about others online. So they have those responses measured and used by the branches of government individually grouped and together. in collusion with a whole bunch of other nations' overt criminal enterprises. They already had to hide lie progressions from that. They already had to hide it peripherally too, for their uses of each agent fact tribute nature of campuses. And this is maintained, facilitated for them by a breaching method that was sophistication here before anyone was. And it still is recorded effective sophistication beyond what anyone will let demonstrated is sophistication, which is very simple. But they need to keep things complicated. They need to keep things owed, unpaid. They need to keep torturing each other at the same time because they have the simultaneous nature exploited. And they don't have an identity they could speak for. America, us, modern nations, A through Z, each one of us. We, our identities are in collusion with the whole with what is fluent through each nation, maintaining each location, area, and state, leveraged against each position of the human fact-keeping nature as a quality of diffusion, forced entertained to be criminal and seditious nature, were forced respected by a breaching organized crime method. Very simple, worse than war crimes. This just your minds. We have forsaken areas. All. We have worse than forsaken. At the same time, we have forced pretended integrity, standing anywhere. No one heard integrity's voice. So follow mandated law and pick one name in sequence at the branch and respond. Dozens of people from the British Superior Court, from Hartford Police, associated with the FBI, CIA, are involved with crime methods where they forge names and switch names, where they make confessions, as rolls with this with on-off interbranch locations, predicate acts, falsified police reports, human trafficking acts rolls, uses of the WFSB through time, through decades, uses of Fox Connecticut News through decades, people on and off the buildings next to them, on and off the parking garage, on and off the roads, routes, and highways. Know how that is right before. That is stacked. Their building is stacked on top of the north end of Hartford, where there are a lot of shootings, where their roles over here are recorded as victims, but as victim predators being told to hide from and lie to hide from more and more mandated law while they're stealing people to fake words, locations, and ties to other. Fox Connecticut News, their roles with agencies, with the buildings next to them also, and with this Thaddeus Grabowski and other federal criminals, and ones that are other ones that are also co-defendants in a 2006 case with Robert Luskin, who are involved also before that and leading up to the and since involved with on off Fox Connecticut News with their predicate acts, illusions, and with other buildings downtown, and with the two Mendez police involved with the right there downtown Hartford, with the Fox Connecticut building is next to where the G Fox building used to be. I believe it's Goodwin College now. Now all the buildings where the clubs are in downtown, they changed the names of them. They're also involved a whole bunch of people from Central Connecticut State University involved with predicate acts with them and with wrongdoing with them, and or with people tied to them, and or to their family, just to their family members. But that is, they're all involved with wrongdoing. And it's nothing personal. These are names. This is what I'm trying to talk about. Get me the names into branch on the paper, because they've been falsifying police reports since I was a kid. They used the crime method, whole bunch of crime methods bonded. One of them is criminally preventing anyone from having writing to respond to. They put charges and they simultaneously confess how they switch names of arresting officers, and how they're going to attach you to more and more fake locations and fake words and fake relationships to strangers. That's what they're doing when they do that. So get them into branch to one name in sequence. There was a Russian guy recorded, confessed, and demonstrated. They use criminal readings of statutes where there's a benefit of you have to give the benefit of the doubt. They give the benefit to the doubt to people based on jobs and titles, like a hierarchy type thing. See, but the sequence shifts in their organized crime acts with those bodies actually recorded in their evidence racketeering uses of their locations, pretending not to realize while they're stacking everyone with more faked words, more fake locations with the criminals, with the areas worse than the criminals. Also, their roles with the same criminals they put away with their body dumping spots and with those persons criminally involved with them criminally. Judges, prosecutors involved with the serial killer, and with a whole bunch of military police, foreign and domestic, associated with deans. They made that's why they bring up that they used the sense and sensibilities of a Dean Keys. And then she's associated with a guy who's Muslim, but he's like a black Muslim. I don't think he's foreign Muslim. But they also have foreign Muslims involved with forging names, switching names, and with predicate acts roles with some untimely death spots. Their uses of their roles as doctors, pretending they had conversations with people they never had conversation with. They've been using the phenomenon where they could just pretend because someone walked by them. So they said something that never was. They're forging names, putting attention. They're lying about what is happening with areas because they're involved with the organized crime. They're kept recorded, needing to hide the same sequence shifts, finite lies, active lies, progressive lies, and identity thefts, frauds, lies, uses of the identity ground locations like job sites, with overt criminal enterprises, and with their family members, kept needing to hide the same lie progressions, same sick roles with other natures of bad things bonded. Originally, still self-value, no one mentions it because it's bonded by the breaching method that is fluent through our nations. That needs as Russians and Americans to hurt each other. That needs as Russians, Americans, because those Russians and Americans are recorded involved with the fire departments, with the medical campuses, with the child campuses involved with them, with database organized crime acts, with wire crime acts, the role stacking fake transcripts, the roles with each of the departments of the campuses, inter military. This used both political parties because it used the identity, the ground locations of the CIA, of the FBI, of the I don't know what this, but all the identity ground location. They used the identity ground location of the But also, I do know that CIA and FBI are involved with the federal criminals and police forms other intercities from my town and with that location in Hartford and the buildings in Hartford. And as the ones involved with predicate acts on off CCSU and on off Trinity College with a whole bunch of other nations, as the same exact people leading up to and in the World Trade Center attack actually recorded, confessed, demonstrated also remote uses of victims. They got locked into it. Now they don't even realize it. Speaking about me, to pretend I had a conversation with, or I never had a class with Dan Keene. There's a whole bunch of people with the name Joe DeMoro, intercities, involved in women in their family, involved with Trinity College, and with CCSU through administrations and leading up to the Trade Center attack. And in that context, in relationship to their predicate acts roles here, intercities, and with these Kerr family, and with an officer Jerry Miller also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated before the school semester started. So I warned them not to do anything. I knew they were going to keep making it worse. I'm trying to say, I'm trying to give them, so they laugh at you. We'll charge them for predicate acts then. Falsified police reports, roles with child offenders on and off campuses, proven and further recorded. Then there were roles with it with more than. These are intercity campuses, people involved with predicate acts on and off the child campuses in my town and intercities, as the ones on and off the Trinity College and CCSU. It's connected also because then when people try to respond to things, they make connected confessions. They make connected all so they're delaying now your response. They're incorporating more things that you have to describe while they're not going to let you describe anything so they can just pretend they don't understand you. Since I was a kid, I've been attached to fake locations and fake words with people that I caught now as adults and adults that were adults then messing with kids, like a former Mayor Gold. Has a whole bunch of people tied to his daughter and his son. I never even saw his son, real life. I only saw him in a picture. They have military police involved with a whole bunch of other nations with little illusions against everyone, and with their treatments of my yearbook, the yearbook of Central Connecticut State University, recording their treatments of Paul Manafort. Russia, all these other nations have roles with psychology, with doctors that are recorded involved with forging names, switching names, crimes with child offenders, with judges, with the experts on kids, their family members, the training of the prison stewards, all inclusion. Each age of fact, human nature is being hurt to entertain, originally instill those sick people involved with their overt criminal enterprises, kept needing the same high lives with them. These are some sick fake sides of integrity, non-existent across the board. We have some sick branches of government originally instilled, and that's recorded. That's evidence. When they deny it, that's recorded evidence too. That's why we need to get them onto paper. Follow mandated law. WFSB, fix the fake news and report the news. And let's go so we don't have to keep seeking out. We don't have to keep describing the people around you. Even the police department, even the police chief, even though he's involved with the child abuses, even though his daughters are recorded, confessed, and demonstrated by him, by people tied to them involved with this. Also, with the corner of the down the street from the where WFSB reportedly confessed and demonstrated involved also in Rocky Hill intercities with the people with Hartford and Wethersfield Interbranch involved with them with Rocky Hill. Like they have a male and female Bobbies associated with the Exxon gas station, associated with a Colola family, associated also with a whole bunch of people with judges and prosecutors involved with them with interbranch Facebook pages and with their own kids through time. Since they were kids involved with predicate acts, I know people I never had class with, like a Subby Bajerio. I never had conversations with him. I had like brief interactions with them, all about their roles with the confessions of people on my street from before I met them. In grammar school, Hudson O'Brien family, associated also with people intercampus, inter-departments at Central Connecticut State University, with military families and with Sandy Hook families and with prison families and with retired and standing detectives, per the people tied to them and per the confessions of his kids, with the roles of Congress through time recorded how used remotely and their roles intercities with the child campuses with that, with each of the departments. It's nothing personal against the departments. They're influenced to this by the foreign and domestic collusion with the courts, criminal uses of them to hide their life progressions. That's kept needed by them. That's recorded too. So there's like a whole bunch of judges tied to a judge of in a Delafair family, and there are a whole bunch of weird pattern of their roles with houses and businesses on and off of Town Line Drive, and the policing of shared policing of places like that, and like a Mayano family. These are prosecutors also involved with them criminally through them with databases with forging name switch sequence shifts where they have whole groups involved with sequence shifts. Now these are also like a Maria Vizino and a Steven Stocco, for example. I had nothing to do with them growing up, and a Zeno family. But there's that corner, and then there's a Mike Pete who is making confessions about people associated with Mike Roberts. I barely know. The only context I know them in was in people was them tied to people who made confessions, demonstrated, recorded roles before the World Trade Center attack when they were kids with people associated with Central Connecticut State University with organized crime uses of the grammar schools in my town in intercity and uses of houses on Hangdog Lane. I found out later after see my the person in my grade who lives next to me, and the other ones I don't know what school they if they went to my school or not. For, so they make people use other people's names because they put falsified police reports since I was a kid. They make trouble, and then they tell people to call. They describe what's going on off the records, and they make people remember things because we have all kinds of evil, all kinds of evidence reception, organized crime that our branches of government are with originally still and with delusions. So that they're also preventing mandated law, and they also have roles with gun crimes this way because now they're forging names, switching names, making threats against people, using violence, and using no means to counter it. They're also because the forging names and switching names. How are you going to sue when they're forging names, switching names, and with various natures of courts already on off their locations involved with actually recorded predicate acts and then need to pretend other. Get them on paper now. So so please do what's right. Connecticut News, Fox Connecticut News, and WFSB, CNN, Trantolo and Trantolo is one of the lawyers recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with them with uses of lawyers per crime method /s that demonstrates how they really originally used lawyers, criminally foreign influence, fake sites with locations, areas, states maintained criminally foreign influence, incapable of defending their roles with and as that, and affording our founders identities understood and free speech. They can't stand it. They are the nervous system of an archetypal criminal enterprise. The stewards of the sciences of the identities of the branches of government and of the identities of opinion nature. Now, to discern this, you have to discern it in relationship to where they forbid mandated law from being followed and how they are motivated to that. So follow mandated law for them. Get them from the names forging and switching Connecticut interbranch and from the background because the various natures of courts in the background were involved with the predicate acts on off campuses locations, but these are the people that were involved also with predicate acts on off campuses, attaching kids to fake locations, students to fake locations on off campuses, on campuses too, into databases, categorically, sequentially, sickly, insidiously, and overtly too. So respond to mandated law for them. because those are the same ones. When I was in a grammar school down the street from me, further involved with this, with child sex offenders campus on the registry, and their family members involved with other natures of organized crime with them also, and with untimely deaths that brought this up to my awareness. And when you call on the phone to report things, they're lying about, they're putting fake transcripts about what goes down on phones. And they're hiding with and lying about foot trade experiences about what happens on Facebook. And then they brought Facebook before Congress and they left that out. No, more worse than that. So they use them remotely. They have to hide that. They have to pretend integrity. These are people, these are the same houses that are involved with predicate acts directly and indirectly, victims or victim predator, whatever, with the interbranch and with the overt criminal enterprises through time, more and more per per themselves in the police, in the courts, but no one put anything in writing because they pretended other too, and that's actually recorded. So I need the attorney general now too. We need them. We need him. But we have even the state's attorneys or offices, all programs, all the increasingly needed peaceful means to resolutions to things, to agreements to things, to value nature systems entrances. They can't do it because not one person has integrity. They've been using identity, the ground locations. Oh, so all they care about is having a mosque and a means to or a church. They don't care about Islam. They don't care about the church. All they care is about having a job by a science, abridged. They don't care if it's abridged, and that's valued by their opinions and relationships. They're valued by that by people keeping the Constitution valued abridged, breaching screened. How it is abridged, breaching tools and weapons only allowed to speak. Worse, it's not a curse. It's a simple method. You allow free speech. It means right now science reveals what you do, where there are areas most forsaken. All are forsaken, let alone let alone overtly tactically denatured identity grounds, identity of relationship to our quality of fact human nature positions. Each position of the human fact human nature, each location, area, and state is forced to entertain and to be criminal and seditious nature or to get hurt and worse. All tactically pseudo educated originally and still. Only they can pretend other through contrast. So we have criminal readings of statutes. We have criminal uses of words. It's, you know, we need to get them on. We're writing. We need to have mandated law followed. See how they put the picture of the athlete Simone. They're using her to further recorded, effectively maintained people associated with the Olympics that also have private roles with prisons and with interbranch roles with foreign and domestic families, like with psychology, with a lot of things, in psychiatry, medicine, the policing of it, especially the ones with badges. They're sick. Their delusions were originally still. They messed up what logic is about, not by action. And if one more person repeats that thing about what they're so sick. They say about insanity. Well, they know they're insane. The perfect world, the zenith, it only increases. So they're preventing it from being defended here. They're preventing free speech. They're sequence shifting when they pretend to be about markets, positions, value treatments. They want to speak as Democrats or Republicans or independent, fake sides. They want to leave out how each one of the branches of government use them both remotely. Here means appear, one way alone. It is native pure. It is native pure. Be sure. Boxings. It tells us things. The science of sharing identity. So who will help me out? And we will write about this is wasting my time, wasting our time too, and values. So if I wasn't being extorted, that's why I keep wasting time because I know what it's gonna be. I want to start. I wanted to make it sound nice. That's why I take the time. I'll just tell you anyway. It's gonna be like pamphlets. We're gonna set up businesses and we're gonna stack them because we're gonna bring artistic reliefs because your formal stewards don't have the sophistication, don't have the honesty, and don't have the integrity while they're pretending other to help you. Millions and everyone who needs help and who pretends they don't. That their defenses of their argument of how they're pretending to be honest when they don't. Their premises treatments and their sequence treatments are recorded, delusions raw, and criminally foreign influence. Check. Who disbelieves? Respond for the Connecticut interbranch 4G names, switching names, all kinds of abuses of each age of fact nature. It's in all other nations too. They're sick with psychology. Nations individually grouped together, they owe a lot of things. This is sick. They need to contrast. They need to value titles. They need to value jobs, locations, interbranch locations where they're going to just stack fake recorded transcripts into databases since before computers. Understand that. This was using them remotely since before electronic definitions of that. Lie progression, standing lie progression cover up nature's styles of liars in relationship to nature's nature. Because one identity, it's like your body. All the identities of your body share one identity of volume. Now, God is an algebraic variable, but this is an identity of science where the study of it uses that to make sure we're communicating. This is communicating about what is true always and not denying exceptions, not valuing being denied or having been denied. See, yin yang can never be separated. So the male and female can never be separated. But the exception is how we are separated. But that's exception and exception nature and demonstration of where and how we are valued no matter who we are or where we are. It's only when we're valued onto the complete nature that is the identity of each individual grouped and the species body of value that engineered that for itself and as itself. Each thing, cell cellular structure, cell nucleus, cell body, cell wall. These are three identities of volume. They are a shared identity of volume. There are three identities of sequence nature. They are a shared simultaneous nature. When they are only a sequence nature, or when they're only sequence natures grouped, and or when they're only sequence natures altogether, they're still only negative value nature. vaccines. So we have to seize integrity for our nations as our species nature of volume, knowing that they are forced as victims back into the defenses of identities that require defenses of premises treatments, of sequence treatments, and of collusion that's called peaceful in relationship to the as a trick, in relationship to wars and other kind of threats and unfoldings and things. So, in other words, that distinction was never made too, and that was where obligations to know and discern and to allow told and demonstrate how the only counters to sick things like wars as solutions when everyone's in a tactically nature based state, self valued, not by accident. So, oh, but that's how it goes. Yeah, everyone has to, it's the system and it works. So these people pay rent and these people rely upon that. How are we going to pay? This is all breaching a ploy. That's why we need reliefs, injunctive reliefs, artistic reliefs first, because the branches of government are criminally foreign influence delusions raw, and they're hiding and plotting when you ask for your rights, when you ask for reliefs from their recorded roles with offensive, bonded natures of organized crime upon each location, area, and state, let alone the most forsaken areas. We're going to begin with Hartford, for Connecticut, the capital of Connecticut. So, and we're going to start. We're going to start talking about the houses and the families that Connecticut Interbranch brought up with their falsified police reports through time, their wire crime, mail crime methods, and their criminal uses of databases on and off campuses, forging names, switching names, time impositions against people, and all they have tied to the on and off the media locations and uses of that. That was then used. They also used that their roles with uses of Weathersfield Parks, also to pretend to record things with people that involved with the human trafficking, falsified police reports, identity theft, frauds, roles, sweet sequence shift roles. Many tied is all so all relevant further to the chain campuses and the police forms with the overt criminal enterprises with acts on my street and so aggression and gun crime rules, drug crime rules, untimely death crime rules, and these are our leaders. They're getting down. I'll get around. Get them to one name in sequence now. Fake branches bow and fall. Build wall.